Good morning and welcome everyone to the Cabinet of Wednesday the 29th of September. As you will be aware, this meeting will be recorded and available to view on the Council's website. Yep, so that's it, thank you. Do we have any apologies?
As noted in the chat, leader from Christina Harry, Chief Executive.
Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you very much. Okay, as per normal procedures, I'll just move to declarations of interest. Councillors and officers are reminded of the personal responsibility to declare any personal and/or prejudicial items prejudicial interest in respect of any items on the business on the agenda in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Does anyone have anything to declare? Okay, moving on then. So the next item on the agenda is to approve and sign the following meeting minutes from the Cabinet held on the 15th of September. I'll just go through page by page and just for accuracy, if that's okay with members. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, and page 5. Everyone happy with those? If I can have a show of hands for those, please. Thank you ever so much. Do excuse me because I'm using only one screen, so I'm flipping between the agenda, etc. on one screen, so bear with me. Okay, so if everyone's happy with those, we'll go to the next, just the forward work programme. And obviously this is a standing item that we have on the agenda, so it's for us just to note. Okay, and if everyone's happy with those, if we can have a show of hands. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay. So next item then is the Workforce Development Strategy, and I'll hand over to Councillor Gordon. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. The purpose of the report is to seek Cabinet approval of the Workforce Development Strategy 2021 through to 24. The Council team carefully better together transformation strategy was adopted by Cabinet on the 12th of June 2019. As part of this strategy, 10 corporate reviews have been undertaken to transform how the Council works, and the workforce development is one of them. One of the actions of this review is to produce a workforce development strategy, which is attached for scrutiny members at Appendix A. The changing landscape in public health, politics, economics, technology, demography, and environmental impact mitigation and social attitudes are influencing how we resource the Council. With concerns over skill shortages, an ageing workforce and increasing competition to attract talent to Caerphilly, a strategically planned approach to workforce development is necessary to align strategy, processes and people. Workforce development is being undertaken to different degrees across the Council. This ambitious strategy will bring a coordinated approach to a workforce development across the Council services. The Council's clear commitment to workforce development is now captured in the Workforce Development Strategy 21 through to 24. To ensure that we have a well-trained, well-motivated and flexible workforce that are capable of dealing with many future challenges we will face across the Council. The recommendation is made to ensure that we have a workforce development strategy in place to support a workforce in the future that is fit for purpose and equipped with the necessary skills to innovate and move the Council forward the Caerphilly way. GMB, Unison and Unite have been consulted on this strategy. The strategy was considered at Policy and Resources Scrutiny Committee yesterday and was unanimously endorsed. The committee had many questions which were answered, but they did not wish to make any amendments to the strategy. Lynn Donovan, Head of People Service, can take the Cabinet members through the comments from the committee if that would be helpful to members. I move the recommendation, as I said at the beginning, Leader. The purpose of the report is to seek Cabinet's approval of the Workforce Development Strategy 2021 to 24.
Thank you ever so much, Councillor Gordon. If I can go to Councillor Whitcomb, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. lifelong learning and in-work development is a key to a happy and productive workforce. And our best asset is our workforce, and we should invest in them whenever we can, and I'm more than happy to second this report.
Thank you ever so much, Councillor Whitcomb. If I could go to Lynn then, if you would like to add, maybe some narrative around some of the discussions that you had in the meeting yesterday then.
Certainly, Leader, thank you very much. As Councillor Gordon has said, the strategy was unanimously supported at Policy and Resources Scrutiny. No amendments were required by the members, but there were questions in relation to agile working, returning back to the office, supporting staff who are working from home with regards to their well-being, in particular their mental health, how staff were developing whilst they're not working in the office, and how we were supporting training needs. Resilience in teams was also raised as an issue, and also the numbers recorded in the strategy of staff that have a disability. Those were the themes of the discussions running through. Members at the committee seemed quite comfortable with the answers that we gave, and as I said, there were no requests for any amendments in the strategy.
Okay, thank you ever so much for that, Lynn. I think that's really helpful. So people were reassured, obviously, from then the responses that officers were able to give.
They appear to be Leader, thank you, yes.
Fantastic, okay. Were there any comments around that? Okay, I think it's great to see this report, coming through, clearly signalling what we need to do going forward, for the next few years. So I think this is a commendable report, and I think if there's no further comments on that, then I think we'll go to the vote. Thank you. And if anyone could let us know if there's any connection issues or voting issues. And then we can record them verbally if need be. I don't know whether my system is slow. Has everyone's come through? Yeah, okay, that's unanimous then. Thank you, everyone. Okay, moving on to the next item then on the agenda, Employee Wellbeing Strategy 2021 to 24. If I can hand back to Councillor Gordon, please.
Thank you, Leader. The purpose of this report is to seek Cabinet approval of the Employee Wellbeing Strategy 2021 through to 24. The Council Team Caerphilly Better Together Transformation Strategy was adopted by Cabinet on the 12th of June 2019. As part of this strategy, 10 corporate reviews have been undertaken to transform how the Council works, and the workforce development is one of them. One of the actions of this review is to produce a wellbeing strategy detailing how we will work together to fully support our employees' health and well-being. The Employee Wellbeing Strategy 2021 through to 24 attached at Appendix Appendix 1 acknowledges that the importance of employee health and well-being has become more widely recognised over the past decade. Employee well-being is critical for business performance. A healthy workplace that promotes a state of contentment benefits both employees and the organisation. Our people are the very heart of everything we do. Our continuing success as a council will depend on us promoting and facilitating good health and well-being to enable us to provide excellent services to our communities. This employee well-being strategy reinforces this. This is an ambitious strategy and comprehensive in content with key priorities highlighted. It details how we achieve our vision, working together to fully support our employees' health and well-being. The recommendation is made to ensure that we have an employee wellbeing strategy in place to work with our employees to promote and facilitate good health and well-being, and to provide excellent services to our people. We have taken into account of the responses to the employee survey when developing the strategy. GMB, Unison and Unite have been consulted on this strategy. The strategy was considered at Policy and Resources Scrutiny Committee yesterday and was unanimously endorsed. The committee had questions which were answered, but they do not wish to make any amendments to the strategy. Lynn Donovan, Head of People Services, can take the Cabinet through the comments from the committee if that would be helpful. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you ever so much, Councillor Gordon. If I could bring in Councillor Pritchard, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Can I formally second the report, please?
Thank you for that. And Lynn, maybe if you could add some further notes to the following the meeting yesterday as well. I think that'd be really helpful for us just to hear some of the views. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. I think it was quite helpful for scrutiny last night to be considering this strategy, following many of the questions that we had about the workforce development strategy around staff wellbeing, and in particular how we support staff who maybe experience some mental health difficulties. Questions from the members last night related to our levels of sickness absence, acknowledging that we needed to work to reduce them. Some questions around stress, the personal stress and work stress, and how we are able to identify a difference. And I reassured members that that is based on what our employees are telling us, what the major form of the stress is for them. And there was a question around the staff survey, where one of the responses was indicating that 25% of our staff didn't think that the council was changing for the better at the moment, and members were asking and seeking reassurance that we were looking to do some further work into that to try and identify why staff were saying that. And I was able to reassure members that we were, because of the way that we'd asked the questions and allowed for comments from staff. That was it, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Lynn. Really helpful, and I think it's important, isn't it, that actually this wellbeing strategy sits hand in hand with that workforce strategy. They almost dovetail together and go hand in hand for us, you know, in terms of what we want to achieve. And for me, the wellbeing of the staff, and I can't say it enough, and I think Councillor Whitcomb has already referenced it, staff are our biggest asset, and they are so important, and we need to ensure that we're doing the right thing by them to ensure that they're capable and available to do their work. And I think that's really, really important going forward. So I'm really glad that P&R endorsed this yesterday. I think it's fantastic to see, because they are great strategies, and I think it's really important that we set out our goal in terms of what we need to do as an authority, and as I said, welcome these reports today. Is there any other comment around that? Ed, if you'd like to come in.
Yeah, thanks, Leader. I'm conscious I may have come in ahead of any questions from members, but nonetheless, you've got to take your opportunity as it arises. I just wanted to put on record really my thanks to Lynn, the team, her team, and the wider leadership team, because I think it's often lost, isn't it, that these strategies take a huge amount of work in the making. I think hearing from Councillor Gordon this morning that both strategies have been unanimously supported by P&R and are supported by our trade union colleagues gives you an indication of how well received the documents were. And I think it's important, again, just to revisit another comment from P&R last night. These strategies have been developed and brought forward whilst we remain in the pandemic. So again, it's just an opportunity really for me to say thank you to Lynn and the team for managing to progress this work at probably one of the most challenging times that we'll face as an organisation. And I think what you've got before you today, subject to your decision now on this wellbeing report, are two really excellent foundations for us to move forward as Team Caerphilly. Thanks, Leader.
No, thank you for that, Ed. And it would be remiss of me not to mention that, because it goes without saying that these are, as I said, you know, the big strategies. They are our roadmap, and I think it's important that we acknowledge that. So yeah, thank you, and I'm sure the Cabinet would agree with your sentiment there. For me, it's just understanding, you know, where we've been in terms of the last 18 months, and we're certainly not out of the woods yet. I think that is really key. That, you know, we're still in alert level 0. We're still dealing with a global pandemic, and we should not, you know, shy away from that, because it is absolutely offering up challenges all along, you know, in every section, in every department, in every area of the work that we do, and then also in delivering our services will be impacted, because we are quite clearly not out of the woods. Councillor Pritchard, would you like to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Leader. And just picking up on the staff survey in terms of, I'll get the percentages up now. Work-life balance, 84% of employees, felt their work-life balance was good or very good. I think we can't downplay this because, as the leader said, and I think as Councillor Wickham has said, look, it's crucially important for our employees, to have the support and to be of a good state, whilst they're working. And I've certainly noticed. I'm not saying this should happen all the time, but I think most councillors have noticed that we get email responses from officers at some peculiar times. If we're looking back over history, it may be between the hours of 9 to 5, but we certainly get replies now in the evening. But I can take that as a positive, because that looks as though to me that you're not stuck rigidly 9 to 5, behind your desk. You've got caring responsibilities, and let's not downplay, our own, mental health in all of this as well. If we can take an hour out of the day, and I'll say now, I take an hour or an hour and a half out of the day to go for a walk, to go to the gym, to do things I couldn't possibly do usually during the hours of 9 to 5. I think it is important, that agile working is important. We're not 9 to 5 these days. That used to be the case more so, years ago. But I do think it's important that we support, agile working. So I just wanted to highlight that point. 84%. That's 5/6, I think, of the workforce saying that. So I just wanted to highlight those couple of points there.
No, and thank you for that, Councillor Pritchard, because I think it's important, isn't it, that it gives us that flexibility. Agile, working in an agile way gives you that flexibility if you have, caring responsibilities or other commitments elsewhere. So I think it's important to recognise that, we've already mentioned, and I do recall Ed saying this some time back, work is something you do rather than where you go. So it's about understanding that, it's ensuring that that stress levels and anxiety is not impacted. We need to ensure mental health is looked at. We really do want to make sure that people are doing their work in the right environment, and that it is conducive to us to complete our jobs. And I think that's what's really important. We need to get that across. And these strategies, as I said, go hand in hand to deliver that. And I think it's great to see these here today, given the difficult circumstances that these have been produced in. I think it's really good to note. So thank you for those comments, because they're really important. I just want to go back quickly to that 25% of the ones that said they didn't think we were going in the right direction. It's important now that we drill down from that and we understand why they feel that, because we need to unpick why. And I think that is really, really important, that, and I couldn't emphasize that enough, because I want to know why people feel like that. It could have just, it could be a whole host of things, but we need to find out why and hopefully remedy that. Ed, did you want to come back in?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to downplay the need to understand why almost a quarter of the workforce don't feel the changes we're making are positive. But it would be remiss of us not to recognise that 3/4 of the workforce do. And as human beings, we do have a natural tendency, don't we, to seek equilibrium and a stable state, and sometimes change is not always welcome. So I know at P&R last night this was put forward as a potential concern, but I think it's also important that we recognise that 3/4 of our workforce are happy that we are making positive changes, and I think that should be recognised, whilst also recognising there is work to be done on the remaining 25%. Thanks, Leah.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think it's understanding, isn't it, that it's more about managing change. It's more about understanding and holding, metaphorically holding the hand, or holding the hand of people to understand what needs to happen. So if people, it could just be that they just haven't had an update yet on something, and could have completed that question at that time and felt, oh, actually, so yeah, so for me, it's just understanding the narrative behind that and walking people through it, and reassurance. It's the reassurance I think that very often people need in these sort of circumstances. But you're absolutely right. It does emphasise that 3/4 are happy, and we should never, shy away from that, because that's significant. And just some of the other stats that Councillor Pritchard brought up as well, they're significant in that they're positive. And and I think we need to reassure people that actually, on the whole, the staff survey was very well received, and it was a positive position for us. Dave, did you want to come in?
Yeah, it's just to reassure you, Leader, taking into account Ed's comments, which I agree with completely. And one of the things we are doing at the moment is looking at a directorate breakdown of the staff survey. So whereas, you know, the figures that Lynn's referenced and Ed's referenced are generic across the council, have we got particular hotspots, particular things going on in particular directorates, which means that things are out of sync in some places compared to the rest of the council. That work started. We'll be looking at that in some detail, and that should give us a little bit of a better overview than we've got at the moment.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you, Dave. Absolutely, and I think that's really what it's all about, isn't it? And that's why I emphasised it's about understanding why the position was given at that moment in time. Okay, well, if there are no other comments, I think we're ready to go to the vote on that, please, Mark. Okay, thank you ever so much. That's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so on to the next report then, and that is item 7, the Christmas close down arrangements for 2021. Over to Councillor Gordon, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Christmas already. What a happy time of the year. The purpose of the report is to see Cabinet's agreement for Christmas close down 2021. Cabinet will be aware that the Council has previous years implemented a close down for offices over the Christmas period. The proposed arrangements for this year are included in the report. In recognition, and this is essential to say, I'll say it again, in recognition of our excellent staff that have worked tirelessly during the pandemic to ensure that services are not only continued to be provided, but are supporting new services to be introduced. Cabinet are also asked to agree an additional 1-day annual leave for all staff for 2021 and a 2-hour credit to reflect the Christmas Eve shutdown of corporate offices. Cabinet are therefore asked to agree the recommendations in the report. 3.1.1, corporate offices closed at 12 noon on Christmas Eve and reopen on January the 4th, 2022. 3.1.2, all staff receive 2 hours credit for Christmas Eve as per the arrangements detailed in this report. 3.1.3, all staff receive an additional day annual leave for 2020. I think that should be for 2022. Am I correct, Ellen? I think I should read 2022.
It's 2021, Councillor Gordon.
On
21.
It is 2021.
Oh, okay then. All staff receive an additional day annual leave for 2021. 3.1.4, carry over annual leave to be increased to 6 days for this year only. The recommendations are made to recognise the exceptional commitment and hard work of employees during the pandemic and their excellent response to challenges it has brought. I move the report and the recommendations, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. If I can go to Councillor Cook, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'm more than happy to second this report. Officers have gone above and beyond during the pandemic, and by giving all members of staff an extra day's leave, it's our way of showing our gratitude for all their hard work. I hope officers enjoy their extra day off. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you ever so much, Councillor Cook. I think it's so vital that we do this because I think this has been a tough time, 18 months of working in an environment that's been very difficult for all of us. I think this is the least we can do for our staff. I absolutely think this is a great move, so I'm really happy that this report has come in today. Councillor Whitcomb.
Thank you, Leader. Just a quick question. I note and welcome the report, and I note that we are going to give staff 2 hours credit on the flexi-time clock. Can I ask Mrs. Donovan what we're doing for members of staff who are not on the clock? We have a large proportion of our staff who do not operate on the clock system. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Whitcomb. Lynn.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, Councillor Whitcomb has raised a good point, Leader, because as you will be aware, in previous years, that 2-hour credit has only been given to staff who work in corporate offices when the office is closed. What this report is addressing is that the whole of the workforce who are employed corporately actually have that 2 hours credit, but we're also acknowledging that there are some staff who maybe their rotas wouldn't support them being able to take those 2 hours because of cover arrangements. So in those cases, they would be paid the 2 hours rather than have the credit and lose it. But this report brings the opportunity for everybody to be treated equally, Leader.
Yeah, and that is absolutely why I welcome this approach, because I think it addresses some of those issues. Thank you, Councillor Cook.
Yeah, thanks. I've got two quick questions, if perhaps Lynn can help. The one question is regarding the extra day leave. Do we know if any other councils or organisations are doing this? And the second question, now I've heard in England, some of the councils have actually, the carryover leave has been taken back. So we're given an extra day. So I just want a bit more information on that.
Lynn, you okay to take that?
Yes, certainly. I'm aware, Councillor Cook, that Blaenau Gwent have also given staff an extra day's leave with the requirement that that is taken on the 31st of December. What this report does is allocate an additional day's leave to staff, but recognising at this time of year maybe staff won't be able to take that leave prior to the end of the year because of work commitments and because of service needs. So it does allow for the additional day to be carried over next year. Our annual leave policy allows for 5 days carryover. What the report in front of you is requesting that for 1 year only, the Cabinet agreed that the carryover leave will be 6 days so that our staff don't lose it if services can't accommodate that additional day's leave this year.
Thank you for that. Are any further comments on this? Okay. I know last year we obviously addressed the carryover of leave, didn't we, as well, in light of the pandemic, and obviously we're still very much in that position now. So I think this is, you know, the recommendations laid out in this report are absolutely positive, and I hope that that we all support this, because it's vitally important for our staff and for us to recognise that and acknowledge their commitment to their work. Okay. So if everyone's happy, we'll go to the votes. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you ever so much, everyone. Okay, so on to the next report, which is supplementary report, and this is the update on the management building and service risk at alert level 0. If I can hand over to Councillor Gordon, please.
Thank you once again, Leader, and I promise this will be my last one. Cabinet endorsed the managing buildings and service risk at alert level 0 on the 1st of September. The report before you today, complete with appendices, outlines the proposals for reopening buildings and the reintroduction of service to the public. The recommendations of 3.1 outlines the following. The Cabinet agreed to 1. Reopen the council premises set out in 5.6 in accordance with the templates and recommended controls set out at Appendix 1. 2. Agree the premises set out in 5.7 should remain closed in accordance with the templates attached at Appendix 2. 3. Reintroduce customer first and reception provision at T. Penarth from the 4th of October 2021 in accordance with the template and recommended controls set out in Appendix 3. 4. Agree the reopening recommendations and timescales set out in 5.11 for the remaining customer first in accordance with templates set out in Appendix 4. 5. To receive ongoing reports over the coming months that outline any further changes that need to be made should the guidance or risk levels again change. Officers for each recommendation and attendance to assist with any questions that members may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you ever so much, Councillor Gordon. If I can hand over to Councillor Stenner, please. I'll just give you a second while that finishes.
Thank you, Leader. Sorry about that. I'm happy to second the recommendations in this report, and as you will see from the report, it's certainly not a return to business as usual. And this report shows that the safety of our residents and our employees are paramount as we work to exit the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you ever so much, Councillor Stenner. Timing was key there, wasn't it? So I absolutely welcome this report today, because I think it signals that we're acknowledging the needs of our residents in accessing services, but it also highlights the need to do this slowly, cautiously, and doing it in a very safe manner. So I'd be interested to know around the sort of the completion of the templates around this. If there's anything that anyone wants to know about that in terms of the safeguarding aspects for staff. Does anyone have any questions around that? Ed, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Leader. Not a question, more a statement, really. I think it's also worth recognising a couple of additional points. You'd all be very, very familiar with the case incidence rates across our communities at the moment. And in some cases, those are far higher now than they were when we were in a local lockdown this time last year. The report references the fact that as an employer, we have to put reasonable measures in place to safeguard and protect our staff and visitors to our buildings. That the templates attached take you through all of the reasonable measures that we think are appropriate at this point in time. But it's also worth noting that whilst these buildings have been closed to date, residents have been able to access many of these services through alternative means and will continue to do so moving forward. So this is our collective view, that the safe way of starting to reopen some of our premises and also highlighting some of the conditions and reasonable measures that will be put in place to safeguard those visiting premises and accessing our services. So I thought it was just salient, really, to mention some of those other things which are obvious but perhaps haven't come to the fore at this meeting as yet.
No, absolutely. Thank you ever so much for that, Ed. Dave, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just to support Ed's view. I mean, we've had the latest data on infection rates this morning. Caerphilly, as we stand, has an infection rate of 840 per 100,000 of the population. To put that into perspective, when we went into local lockdown, the figure was 200. There's an infection rate of 16.7%. We know the reasons for that. We know that children going back to school has been a major contributor to those numbers. That's having a knockout impact on our workforce in terms of people with caring responsibilities. And we know that if the public health data is right, we are slowly reaching the sort of peak of the outbreak, and hopefully we'll start to see it tail off. But it's really, to take Ed's point, it's really important that we treat our buildings sensibly and safely, because this has not gone away despite what particular people might want us to believe. It is very real, and the threat of COVID in our communities is probably greater than it's ever been.
No, thank you for Dave, and absolutely, and that's why I said we're doing this cautiously and we're doing it in a safe environment, in a safe way, because we do need to safeguard our staff and the residents that use those services. So we absolutely have to be cautious at every step and ensure that we're taking the right mitigations in order to help mitigate against any of those threats by COVID. You're absolutely right. We, based on the modelling, we could be coming to the end of the peak. Over the next, it could be plateauing and then over the next 2 or 3 weeks and then, receding. But the point is, we are absolutely not out of the woods. I've already said that on the previous reports. And, a return to normality is not there yet. It will be a new norm. It will be a different way of looking at things and delivering services, because we have to think of, public safety in all that we do. I think this is a cautious approach. It's the right approach. It's measured in a way that we are doing the right thing by both our staff and the end users. So I value the detail in those templates, because I think it's really important that we evidence that we're doing things correctly. And obviously further reports will come, as and when we feel that it's appropriate to open up any other offices to the public as well. So thank you for that, both Ed and Dave. I think, you know, putting a bit of narrative around that as well. I think it's really helpful that we highlight those issues. There's no indications to come in, so I think we're happy to go to the vote on that one. That's unanimous. Thank you ever so much, everyone. Thank you. I was on mute. That's the first time I've done that today, as I'm flipping between screens to look at the next item. So the next item on the agenda is the Montclair Avenue Streamworks funding bid. So if I can hand over to Councillor Phipps, please. So we're moving from Councillor Gordon to Councillor Phipps.
Thank you, Leader. This report is to inform Cabinet of the proposals to address extensive scour and loss of riverbank support immediately behind residential properties along Montclair Avenue in Blackwood. Whilst these properties were historically owned, all but 2 properties have been sold to private owners. While the properties were sold to private owners, Caerphilly Council chose to retain the riparian ownership and liability of the watercourse, including the banks up to the private property boundaries. The proposed scheme comprises headwalls, canalised and culverted constructions to convey the stream's water to mitigate future detriment to the watercourse and neighbouring properties' rear gardens. The proposal addresses the watercourse scour and loss of bank support and ensures robust infrastructure for the future, coupled with providing local residents assurances that their properties will remain secure from detriment of the watercourse in the future. This report recommends funding of just over £1.5 million to be made available to the Public Sector Housing Division to secure a contractor to undertake the construction phase of this scheme. I therefore move the recommendation set out at 3.1. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Phipps. If I can go to Councillor George, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I'm only too happy to second the report.
Thank you very much. Okay, I can see that our 151 officer, Steve Harris, has got his hand up. So if I can bring you in, please, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'd just like to clarify that there's a typo in the sum quoted in the report. Also, I'd like to strengthen the recommendation to clarify the source of the funding. So I'd like to propose, Leader, that we change the word in the recommendation to that funding of £1,500,019 is made available from the Housing Revenue Account to deliver the scheme at Montclair Avenue. Thanks, Leader.
No, thank you for that, and that's really helpful, Steve. So thank you. I'm happy to accept this. Councillor Phipps, are you content to accept that? Councillor George, a seconder. Yeah. Okay, then if we can have that noted then for the minutes that the recommendation was changed to include that, the detail of the HRA. Yep. Thanks for confirmation of that.
Yes, Leader, that's been noted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma. Okay, I mean, you know, this is, you know, significant piece of work that's going to happen to the rear of those properties. And as you said, Councillor Phipps, you know, we had taken the decision a while ago to still have responsibility for that watercourse in that area. So this is our duty to do that and make those repairs, you know, so that no one's at detriment in that area, which is really, really important. Okay, Dave Street, did you want to come in?
Yeah, if I may, Leader, just to support Councillor Phipps's introduction report. As we said, this is a long-standing issue, extremely complex issue, and this whole issue of riparian rights is something that we've had to get to grips with. Initially, we believed that the sort of liability for this work was joint with the council and within the council between education and housing, and then with Gwent Police and a very small section of this area which was in private ownership. It's transpired over the last couple of weeks that Gwent Police have no liability. The liability rests solely with the council and with public sector housing rather than the education department. There is a small section which is privately owned, and you'll see under paragraph 5.3 that the private owner there has offered us £65,000 towards that scheme. Housing colleagues that are continuing to investigate that to ensure that, you know, we don't take on more liability than we already have should we go down that road. But we can have those conversations behind the scenes to a degree. But we wouldn't want those to in any way delay the work in this area, particularly the time of year. This is extremely time sensitive. And I know engineering colleagues are already very jumpy in terms of the impact of the winter on us finalising this work. So it brings to a conclusion a very long-standing issue. I'm sure it'll be very welcomed by the people in the ward and the ward councillors. And really grateful for the support of the recommendation should that come through. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for that. Actually, for that little bit extra there, just to highlight that in the report, because I think it's really important that, you know, this has been a long-standing issue, and it's been understanding who has liability in that area. So absolutely, I think it's important that we signal that we can go to, you know, to seek to put a contract in place to start the work. So it's really important that we make this decision today. Okay. There's no more indication, so I'm happy to go to the vote on. Oh, okay, we've got a few now. Okay, they were a bit slow out of the block. Anyway, if we can go to, I think Rob Tranter as monitoring officer. I think.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Leader. Apologies for the rapid hand there. But just to advise Cabinet, it is in the report, but if you agree this decision this morning, officers would like to action that decision very, very quickly, bearing in mind we have the autumn and looking at the rain yesterday. So time is of the essence here. That means, and the Mayor has agreed this, that the decision proposed is reasonable and there are grounds for urgency. And what that means is that this decision, if that is what you're going to take, won't be the subject to call in, but the report will be, for information purposes, taken to the next council meeting, which is next Tuesday, of course. So that's just a sort of safety valve within the Constitution, so that members are aware of this this urgent decision, if that's what you're going to take. Thank you, Leader.
No, and thank you ever so much for that, Rob. That's really helpful, again, in that explanation, so thank you. Okay. And if I could bring in Mark as well, please.
Okay, thanks, Leader. I think Dave covered off very well the urgency of this item. It's been a very complicated design. Obviously, yesterday's weather reminded us that I think autumn is with us, firmly with us. So we do need to get on with this. So and I'll probably seek Rob Tranter's guidance here. Just thinking about the recommendations and the outstanding conclusion of the negotiations with this gentleman who owns a small section of the culvert, which is not very helpful in terms of, you know, it would be ridiculous to do the top of the culvert, the bottom of the culvert, and leave a small section in the middle. We need to do it all. So I just wonder whether an additional recommendation is appropriate, which allows officers, delegates responsibility to officers to just conclude those negotiations with that individual, and to move the scheme on. Again, be guided by Rob on that one.
Rob, did you want to come in on that?
Yes, if I may, Leader. I'm not sure whether a further recommendation is required, but just to make it clear, this little section, not in our ownership, and the offer of the private owner that Dave has alluded to, just so that members are clear that officers will continue negotiations with that landowner, and it won't be the case that we'll bring a report back. So we'll sort of, if you make the decision now, we will carry on with the proposal, and we will carry on with the negotiations with the landowner, just so members are clear on that a report now won't come back at the conclusion of any discussions with the landowner.
Okay, thank you for that, Rob. Okay, I think then in that case then we're good to go in terms of going to the vote on this one then. Thank you, and thanks for that. And I absolutely get you. I understand your concerns, Mark, but I think Rob has outlined what we need to do, so that's fine. Thank you. Okay. I'm still down. It's still a bit slow. Oh, it's happened now. Sorry, my system must be really slow. Okay, thank you for that. That's unanimous. And can I say thank you to everyone that's attended today? And again, I'm glad to see the conclusion in terms of us looking to, sort this issue out in Moncler as well. So I think it's really important the residents have this reassurance from us. So thank you. So thank you for all of those. And I can now say that, yes, meeting has ended. So thank you one and all. And if I can ask the Cabinet and CMT to stay on, please.